Take me to the King. I don't have much to bring. My heart is torn in pieces. It's my offering. Take me to the King.
Hello, my friend. I'm Gloria Mitchell with good news for you. Yes, take me to the King is what Tamala Mann sang, but we have someone who said, don't take me to the King. Do not take me to the King. I refuse to go to the King. And we will find that person in Esther chapter 1, beginning at verse 9. So I'm going to share a little bit about Queen Vashti with you. And then we're going to talk to someone else who was as confident as Queen Vashti. Now, King Artaxerxes his name is Ahasuerus in Hebrew, but it's Xerxes in Persian. He was a Persian king who was giving a feast in his kingdom and entertaining everybody. And while he was doing that, in verse 9 of Esther 1, meanwhile, inside the royal palace, Queen Vashti was giving a banquet for the women. On the 7th day of his banquet, the king was drinking and feeling merry. So he called in the 7 eunuchs who were his personal assistants, his personal servants, we would say, and he ordered them to bring in Queen Vashti, wearing her royal crown. The queen was a beautiful woman, and the king wanted to show off her beauty to the officials and all his guests. But when the servants told Queen Vashti of the king's command, she refused to come. This made the king furious. Now, he could have had her executed like Henry VIII did, but instead he divorced her, we would say. She was a deposed queen, but it was a woman who was confident about herself. She was not just content with just being a beauty and paraded in front of a bunch of drunk men and her drunk husband. And so with that in mind, we're going to talk about a woman and her beauty today, but also to talk about how good it is to be confident as a person. And so I have a guest today who is a former beauty queen, and she's still a beauty queen. You're still beautiful today.
Thank you.
So welcome, Paula Vaughn.
Thank you so much, Gloria. Thank God.
Well, Paula, we'd like to hear a little bit about your story. I understand that you are the first Miss Black America.
First Black woman to be Miss California International.
Miss California International.
Yes, yes.
Oh, my bad. I just boosted you up.
Yes, you did.
Notches,
yes,
so.
you did. Thank you so much. Because, that came later, like with Vanessa Williams.
Yes.
But it was during that, actually, just prior to that time, African-American women were finally participating in pageants or being allowed to. And to be honest with you, I was brought into that pageant because they were told if they did not have representation in the pageant that looked like the state of California. So they went out and they got Latino women, and they found a couple of 3 African-American women to help round things out. And it really was a mandate. It was a serious mandate, and it was one step in us getting better.
What year was this?
This was 1979.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
1979. Okay,
And
good. Go ahead.
If I'm completely honest about it, I was brought in for window dressing by the owners of the pageant. I ended up winning because I won because the judges voted me as the winner. The owner of the pageant was not pleased about it, but the great thing was the show was aired live.
Oh.
We were aired live from Knott's Berry Farm. And the host of the program was, do you remember the old Mary Tyler Moore show?
Yes.
And Ted Baxter, Ted Knight, he was the host of the show. Funny, nice. And so the owner, during the commercial break, prior to them announcing who the winner was, the owner said to Ted Knight, you know, we're going to have a different winner here. And the judges got wind of it all in a 2-minute break and said, if you announce anyone else's name except for Paula Bond, the one that we voted on, we're going to come right on stage and call you all out because it's live.
That's a benefit of having a live show.
Yeah, it was live.
All
it was
right.
live. Nothing he could do about it. And so I became the first black woman to become Miss California International.
Okay, so tell us what that meant to you. How did you feel being announced the winner of a beauty pageant, Miss Black Woman?
Yes. Yeah, it's so interesting because I had never really pursued a pageant before in my life. I had done modeling. I'm 6 feet tall, so imagine at 18, 19, 20 years old, I'm 6 feet tall. And I had done some modeling, and so that's how they found me, as being part of a modeling school, and thought I'd be interested. I did it on a whim, actually. I thought it would be an interesting experience. Never thought that I would win at all. And so it was delightful. I remember the moment clearly right now to this day. I remember my name being announced, the whole audience being in an uproar. I mean, joyous uproar.
Oh,
my friends and family right there congratulating me. And I knew I had made history at that point. And the days and weeks and months following were tremendous for me. I was in everything from the Los Angeles Times and the Sentinel and across the nation. A lot of wires had picked up the story, and so the Johnsons from Ebony Fashion Fair were among those that picked up the story as well, and put me in Jet magazine, ultimately brought me into the Ebony Fashion Fair tour, and my life changed completely.
Well, since you've said all of that, it's time to take a look at some of the artifacts that you've brought for us.
Good, thank
so
you.
share with us some pictures or whatever it is that you have, okay?
Yeah. I obviously, again, I was already a model, but doing the California pageant and then doing the Ebony Fashion Fair really refined everything for me. So that's from one of the magazines that I had done.
For those who are able to see this,
Yes.
to see radio, this is really new.
Yeah, that's
to
right.
see radio, then go ahead and
Yes.
share what you're showing with us.
So I can even be more descriptive. So just like those who are just listening, you clearly understand the show. Tyra has the show America's Next Top Model.
Okay.
And models have to carry around their portfolio. It's our resume, if you will. And so in it are all these different photos of you with you looking different ways so that designers can see you as their next model. So we're just showing a number of pictures from magazines. I did an ebony cover. I was so honored to have an ebony cover, and this was probably 1980, I believe. And so that was pretty cool. Went to New York, did the photo session with one of New York's, at that time, top photographers, Francesco Scavullo. And so it was
the name sounds
just
fascinating.
the name. Yeah, exactly. And if you're familiar with Cosmopolitan magazine, he is the one
Yes.
that shot all the covers of the Cosmopolitan magazines for many years. And so I was honored to have him shoot my magazine cover as well.
Wow, the cover of Ebony magazine. Go on.
And you know, I think about then confidence. I'm born and raised in Compton, California, single parent household. When I grew up, my dad was in and out, but mostly out. My dad was in prison most of the time that we were growing up. And so it's interesting because when we would go visit him, that was a very confusing thing for a young girl, to have to go see her dad in prison and not understand why he's not out with us, why he's not with the family. So I did not grow up with great confidence. I did not. And like most, you know, you just do your best to get better, to have great experiences. But I had have a great mother who really instilled in me the values that I stand on today. And that's what started to make the difference in me.
Wonderful. Now, I want to ask a question about when you were in school. When you were growing up, were you tall in high school, and did any of the students tease you about your height? I'd like to know how you reacted to that, if that's the case.
Great question. I was always tall and always skinny, just tall and string being like. In school, I was always taller than all the boys. It wasn't until college that I actually was in school with boys who were taller than me.
Wow.
Yeah, I was always the tallest one in my class. So I took a fair amount of teasing. I really did. But you know what? For me, it was personality that sort of overcame that, meaning that I could laugh with them. Didn't always feel good inside, but I knew how to sort of hide it through laughter, through cracking jokes, through having fun with people. But again, it was my personality. I can't really take a lot of credit for knowing really how to work my way through it. And again, it wasn't until years later when I became an adult. I'll tell you when I came into my confidence. After the Miss California pageant, then the Ebony Fashion Fair, I toured the country for a whole year. Then I moved to Europe. An agent saw me and said, come to Europe. And so an agent moved me to Paris.
Oh, okay.
And I lived in Paris and throughout Europe for 7 years as a model. It was in Paris.
Just a moment there. Don't you have a picture of you modeling in Europe?
That's right.
Would you please show that
great.
picture of you, please?
That's good.
For those who are able to view it, I know that I saw German written all around that picture.
Look at
I
that.
have a daughter who's currently living in Germany, and she talks about adding that chocolate flavor to that culture.
Come on. Here's what's so interesting about living in Europe. You read books and you have heard about people like Josephine Baker and Paul Robeson and all great writers and artists particularly who had moved to Europe in the 20s and in the 30s. There's a reason why. When I went to Europe, you are now in a place where you can really be yourself. And that's where my confidence grew, because here I am getting my hair done by a French hairstylist, and I was coming out of Afro puffs, okay? So it wasn't like I was all straightened out. And there are these hairstylists are saying, your hair is so beautiful, this texture is so wonderful. I always thought of it as I just got a bunch of nappy hair. And makeup artists do my face, and they think your full lips are so sensual, and your brown skin is just so gorgeous. So at that point in my life, I made a decision. I can believe what they're telling me about myself, that this was beautiful because no one had ever told me that before. Or I can go back to the States and believe that because I am not blue-eyed and blonde hair, that I am not that beautiful. And so it was while I was there that my sense of confidence really, really came together, because I then understood that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and God did not make any mistakes.
Well, let's see what you looked like when you were crowned Miss California. I'd like to be able to show that.
Yes.
And then I'd like to know how it felt when that crown was placed on your head, because some of us have not worn a crown, so we'd like to know what it was. I'd like a picture, perhaps, of how Queen Vashti must have felt being the queen.
Yes.
And even though she was deposed, I think she probably was glad that she didn't have to be paraded around like a hunk of meat in front of, all these men.
Well, you bring up a good point, because to be honest with you, I only stayed with the Miss California pageant probably for about the first 3 months, because it was not something that I was intending on, and I hadn't spent my whole life trying to do that. I wasn't comfortable parading around in my swimsuit and a crown. You wear swimsuit and a crown and heels.
And heels.
Okay, I was 30 years younger, so okay, it's fine. You got the body for it at that point, but it still wasn't something that I wanted to do. And that's when Ebony Fashion Fair came calling, and so I let the first runner-up continue with it, and I moved on, because that was not something that I wanted to do. And like Queen Vashti, it was a hard decision, but I knew it was the right decision, and I had no regrets about it whatsoever.
Wonderful. No regrets.
No regrets.
There was something else that I'd like for you to share. There was a picture of you in Well, it's a black, it looks like a leather suit or so as a model. I'd like to know how you went about choosing
Yes.
some of the fashions, or did somebody choose them for you?
Yes.
I'd like for you to just tell us
Yes,
about
that's
that
great.
process.
When you are a model and you're living in Europe or a model here in America, you meet with all the designers and stylists. And if you're in demand or if you're working and if you're good at what you do, the stylist will come to you and say, I'd like for you to wear my clothes. You can do pictures in them. And that's when you add all of those pictures then to your portfolio. So there's really no shortage. If you're doing a good job as a model, you'll get a lot of designers and stylists who will want you to wear their clothes and pull you all together. And just like the women and men that we see on the Oscars or the Grammys, you wake up in the morning, you got your makeup artist right there, you got your hair person taking care of you, and you have people handing you those clothes saying, put this on and you look amazing. And those two are confidence building sort of exercises. But also too, I must say, like Queen Vashti, and because I never thought of myself as a beautiful person, no one, when I was growing up, that's not what was said about me. I knew that I was so much more than that. And thank God. And I praise God for making me a tall woman who now, as an adult, all those girls who may have teased me, all those boys who may have laughed at me for being so tall and skinny, they all say when I go to the reunion, everybody's like, "Ooh, I wish I was that tall." And I hear it from women all the time. So that's God's will, and I'm happy about who I am. But it took time, and I had to grow into it.
When you said that was God's will, how long were you in the modeling profession, and where was the shift? When did a shift occur in your life, wherein your career took a different direction?
That's a great question, because I modeled for so many years, probably a dozen years at least. At that time when you're in Europe, these days they want girls to start at 14, 15 years old.
Oh, really?
And I was like 19, 20. I was old when I started. So I did, but I modeled until like my mid-30s, at least, because I looked a lot younger. I really did. I looked a lot younger than I was. So I had the opportunity to model until I said, okay, that's enough. I don't really want to do anymore. And then the shift came when I came back to America to live here, and then I had to make a decision about what it is that I wanted to do. And that was a tough time. My confidence sincerely took a dip at that point because I was a little bit lost. Now, who am I? Now, what am I supposed to do? And that's a time when my friend, my great friend, my best friend, her name is Paula as well, Paula Renee, guided me back to the church, guided me back to the Lord.
Oh,
and
okay.
She said, Paula, it's time for you to come back. And she was so right. And rededicated myself to the Lord. Can't say I was perfect and did everything right, but at least I was back on the right path. And it took a while, but I knew I was supposed to be in production. And so I did on air. I went to BET and I worked for them for almost 10 years. At BET, I was on air, did a couple shows there. And then I went behind the scenes and started working as a producer. And I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing, because in college I majored in radio and television production. And I knew I really, really enjoyed that. So I spent about 10 years on camera, and I've been behind the scenes since then as a producer.
I understand that there is something else that you modeled too. It's a picture with a sash on it. It's a cassock, I believe you're wearing. So would you tell us about that?
Oh, good. That is, here's what's interesting. I like people to understand that don't lock your life into a box. My life has had so many phases, and I've had these different careers, but they've all been connected. They really have.
Okay.
Now I am at a point in my life where my walk with the Lord, about 4 or 5 years ago, the Lord called me to the ministry, to serve in a more regimented way, meaning to serve Him, to be about my Father's business, and I'm so happy to do that. So a year ago now, I was licensed at a ministry, did my studies, and became a licensed minister through Faithful Central Bible Church. And been so active and busy with you. You have been a great mentor to me. We've been serving for years years down at Union Rescue Mission. I have a heart for missions. I'm learning and growing in that area. So it has been fantastic. So my passion for ministry, for me, is no different than my passion when I was modeling or for my production work that I do. It's all the same, and it's such a delight, and it's all feeling like not feeling like I'm clear. These are the things that the Lord created me to do, and I'm so happy in doing them.
Well,
that's where confidence comes from, in doing those things you're supposed to do.
That's important. It's important, not only beauty, but brains and boldness. Mm-hmm. And I know that I write the Garbage Man's Daughter series. Mm-hmm. I write this book series because I know what it is to grow up in the Deep South. Mm-hmm. I know what it is to experience racial discrimination, a family that is dysfunctional or it's broken, and also poverty. And so I share about these things to let young people know that just because you grow up in Compton or just because you grow up in a house that maybe you have to put some pails beneath the ceiling when there's a leak or whatever the situation is, you still can be confident and determined that one day I'm coming out of here.
Come on.
And so I write to encourage people to talk about those experiences because as we talk about them, we can release them so that we can go on to do bigger and better things because we're free. But I also know that you have written a book that is designed to help these young people with self-esteem. So would you talk about your book, please?
Absolutely. And two, just like you've been inspired to tell my story, to be a blessing to others, because I agree completely with you. Coming out of a single-parent household in Compton does not mean that I could not evolve into this person. Life is a process, and praise God that life is a process. You're not just one thing. And I wanted to share that information. My book is called Social Media, Say Hello to Social Skills. And it is about learning and growing into that person that you're supposed to be. My book is geared toward 12 to 14-year-old girls and young guys too. And it is all those personal and social skills that really added to my life to make me the person that I am today. And that's what I teach. Because I take for granted academically you got to have it going on. You have to stay in school. You have to graduate. You have to move forward. Go to college if you can.
If you can. That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Because everyone is not destined
able
for college.
But to it, add social skills, not just social media.
Yes.
Social skills. Know how to talk to people. Know how to interact. Travel. Get out of your little box of a city or whatever you're in. And do those things that help you evolve. And that's what the book is all about.
Okay, well, I firmly believe that the essence of education is exposure.
There it is.
So I like to travel around the world. My daughter says, "Oh, Mom, I'm willing to move to Germany," she said, "because you're the one who first moved away from home, so it's okay if I go live elsewhere." So I had to step back and release her like a butterfly to let her go. So I am encouraging you, if you're one who's not feeling really good about yourself or not really feeling like you can accomplish those things that you dream of, just be encouraged. Know that God is on your side. And if you don't know him, you need to get to know him. So before I give Paula her final words to say, I'm speaking to you from my heart and sharing with you again that The Garbage Man's Daughter is a book that talks about a garbage man. This garbage man is God. God is saying, all that junk in your life, I want it. Give it to me. And just like a natural garbage man that comes to collect the garbage, that person takes it away and you never see it again. Well, God, our Heavenly Father, does just the same thing. So, Paula, do you have a closing word of encouragement to our listeners, please?
I just want to say that I don't want it to make it sound easy. It's not easy, but it is worthwhile to remain committed to those things that are in your heart. You know what it is that you're brought here to do. You really do, because it's in your heart. Let the expressions that God put inside of you come forward. Not easy, hard work. No one's going to hand you anything. Oh, but it's so worth it. Stay at it. Remain encouraged. Trust the Lord. Have Him do those things for you that you can't do for yourself, and watch the difference.
Now, we've talked to you today about physical beauty, but Paula, have you ever been told that you're a beautiful person on the inside? Because that's equally important.
I think it's more important, to be honest. I really, really do. I think it's more important. I feel sorry for those who only lean on their looks. I really do, because they really start to feel like, okay, well, who am I outside of that physical? And it's for I also translated to athletics as well.
Okay.
When the football player's off the field, is he enough outside of that? The basketball player, those things that people, just give you such great accolades for. You have to develop that inner person. I do hear that from people that, how they feel about the person that I am on the inside. I thank God for that. And again, I have to give all the credit to my mom.
Well, Mom, thank you very much. What's Mom's name?
Dorothy Bond.
Okay, Dorothy Bond. Thank you very much for such a beautiful young lady on the inside and the out. And so, my friends, I thank you so much for listening and viewing Good News for You, a weekly broadcast designed to encourage you. My emphasis is on you seeing a sermon. We can hear one any day, but I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. And I'd love very much to have your feedback on our broadcast. You may contact me at 310-973-5802 or visit us on the web at www.encouragementbooks.com. And that's I as in peppermint. And so may the good news bless your heart today. Remember, Jesus loves you, and I'm praying for you. And if you missed the broadcast, watch it on the replay on rmcgospel.com. God bless you.
It's my offering. Lay me at the throne. Leave me there alone to gaze upon your glory and sing to you this song. Please take me to